just wanna ride on my motorcycle.
Ooh, well, I can you believe we have the famous Ichy Boots right beside us, following me on a nice little Yamaha Tenere, very nice bike.
Very shiny, brand new piece of kit that she's just picked up.
Nicely supplied by Yamaha. I'm sure they're all falling over themselves to give her gear, I'm sure.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely dripping head to toe in Revit gear.
Yeah, all brand new, all lovely, yummy stuff.
Some very nice
helmet.
Osco Moto kit. All of the gear.
Very nice. All the gear. Oh, here we go.
You know, when we do this, we pick up a guest and we go for a ride with them.
Yes.
Quite often we have that chat about, I wonder how much riding they've done.
Oh, yeah. Well, I think, well, you know what's really fascinating about our guest today, very special. I mean, she has 2.5 million followers on YouTube.
Yeah.
She's got 600,000 people on Instagram. So she's quite a player. You know, and she travels around the world by herself. I'm a super fan. I feel slightly. I don't often get starstruck, but I am today.
Wow.
I know where we are.
Yeah, there's not many switchbacks in Surrey, so we've done well to find one for her.
Yeah. Ashmore. I was going to pop a wheelie, but I think I've done a couple now. There's no need to do any more.
You've proven your manliness to Noraly, yeah.
Oh my God! What lucky people we are.
To be out riding motorcycles.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's nice.
Yeah.
Hello and welcome to The Nod, a mindful motorcycle podcast. This episode is powered by Devitt Insurance, trusted by UK bikers for over 85 years. Whether you ride one bike or a whole garage full, Devitt's got you covered, from single bike policies to multi-bike insurance that can save you time and money. They make it easy to help protect what you ride. Tailored insurance quotes, practical prices, and highly rated on Trustpilot. Head to devittinsurance.com today. Thank you to Devitt. Little word from our sponsors there. Because
wow, I just want to buy insurance now.
Don't you? Hello and a massive welcome. I'm like this little boy in a world of big dogs of the adventure motorcycle world today. So, yeah, well, I know, but we'll get to that bit. Okay. But I just wanted to say hello and welcome to Ichy Boots herself, Noraly. Noraly?
Yes.
Perfect.
Thanks for having me.
Oh, it's an absolute pleasure. Like I say, two titans of the adventure world and me. To the point where you thought I was the cameraman earlier, which was
sorry about
good
that.
to see you've done your research on the show before you came on.
Yeah. Notice it was a two. Well, maybe you just become oblivious during the podcast, and you just sort of disappear.
Well,
once I've done the start and the finish, the rest is basically the Charlie Ballman
Charlie
show.
thought I lived in Portugal, so
this is true. Yeah.
So then I can think that you're the cameraman.
No, okay, all right, yeah, we're all at fault here. Known to many as Ichy Boots, Noraly Schoenmaker.
Schoenmaker.
All right, you say it, not me. Right, we'll move on. It's a bit like Schumacher, but
yeah,
the Dutch Schumacher.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Okay, hey.
And not quite this fast.
If you haven't come across her yet, prepare to be amazed. From vast deserts to icy landscapes.
Yeah, there we go.
Non-location specific.
Sure, do you do much? I don't do much cold. Do you do much cold? No. I don't do cold.
No, me neither, not much.
I don't do colds. I mean, So I think that bit's wrong again as well.
You've just launched a whole TV program about riding in the Arctic.
Yeah, no, but in the summer.
Summer, yeah. I do keep it as an option, you know. At some point, you know, if you run out of interesting ideas, I do think maybe I should then do something in winter or something. You always need to suffer a little bit, eh? I mean, if it looks like you're on a holiday, people don't like to watch that. We need to suffer a bit.
Yeah, no one likes to see other people having a good time.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Who does that, right?
Yeah. That's why people still tune in to see Charley crash.
I've never crashed on film. Actually, Ewan has. And sorry, Ewan.
That's quite. I mean, that is quite. That is quite remarkable when you think about it, of how much you've been on film and how much you've crashed. For the two not to have come together.
I know. Well, no, I did.
Or you're just very good at.
Well, even when I did the Dakar Rally and broke my hands, I had to sort of fudge.
That might have been a record. That might be the quickest you've mentioned the Dakar Rally on an episode, Charley.
I always tried to bring it in.
Excellent.
Anyway.
Good.
So
where were we? We were in some of the most
from the cold and
the hot. Cold to the hot. You've ridden through some of the most remote and challenging terrains imaginable, documenting every twist of the throttle and every breathtaking vista on your hugely popular YouTube channel.
You've got 2-point-something million. That's quite.
Yeah, that's pretty popular, isn't it?
Ka-ching.
Yeah, ka-ching. Yeah. What started this incredible odyssey? We'll dive into what ignited her passion for motorcycles and how a decision to leave her corporate job turned into a life-altering adventure. True? It could be completely false. Okay, cool. We'll move on. We're gonna uncover some fascinating facts.
No, I'm a geologist. I worked in dredging on ships.
Oh, that's right. I'm a geologist. Well,
Yeah.
I've got a degree in it.
Yeah, but having a degree at university is
qualification
dredging on actually doing it.
Well, yes. Yeah.
Right. Let's just move on.
I have a degree in geology. I am not a geologist. Okay, but we have that in common, which is nice, isn't it?
It's nice.
Very nice.
Yeah.
So the truth, one of the things that I have great memory of you is when you were on the west coast of Africa, and it's interesting because when 20 years ago, when you and I went down, or 18 years ago, went down through Africa. At that time, 18 years ago, you couldn't really go through West Africa at the time, and you could go through Sudan and stuff like that. Whereas
now it's the opposite.
Now it's the opposite way around. And so when I saw you, I can't remember whichever one it was. There was a bit when you were going up these red dirt roads, you know, with washed out, you know, messed up road, which is a main road to the border. And I remember you going to the border and them giving you a hard time, and you turned around and said, "Well, I'll come back tomorrow because I'm not going to deal with this guy right now." And it so reminded me of traveling through Africa, and yet I was with Ewan and we had Claudio the cameraman, and a day or so behind us we had Russ and Dave in a couple of trucks carrying another camera person. But I was just imagining what it must have been like for you to be there and do it all by yourself.
I mean, West Africa, like for me, West Africa was one of the hardest areas where I've ever been to. Like everything was hard. So I wouldn't have been able to do it, I think, when I just started out. So I think it helped that by then, I already been riding and done so many border crossings and stuff. So I think that helped. If I would have immediately gone there, then I think I would have just quit. But
it does take quite a skill, isn't it, to judge a border, to see how much you can push back, because they're always trying to scam. There's always something going on, and you have to be kind of ready to be a little bit bullish, don't you?
Yeah, I think you always have to kind of feel like some people you need to like play nice and smiley and happy, and other, I think people you have to just play like, tough, or I don't know, like sometimes I feel like I'm a different person, kind of depending on who you have in front of you.
And you can see I don't know about you, but I can judge quite quickly. I can judge, I always have a little handful of little whiskey bottles, the little Jack Daniels or Johnny Walker
to give to them,
or whatever, rather than, I don't want to give cash because then it makes it difficult for the next person.
Yeah, I'm terrible with the whole bribing thing because like for example, in South America, I felt like you have to be really careful because you can't always, if you immediately start trying to give out money, sometimes it can backfire very terribly. So I never really know like who wants something, and they're always a little bit vague about it as well, usually. Okay, I've had that one time in Nigeria where the police were just like, give me money. Okay, that was very obvious, but like a lot of the other times it's not really obvious. And I think because I grew up in a country where I'm sure there is corruption, but it's not so visible, you know?
I think the Western world, it's not in your face.
It's not so in your face.
I'd rather it in your face, really.
Yeah.
At least you know where you stand.
Yeah, exactly, yeah. So I'm sometimes not so, I kind of forget like, oh, maybe this is what they want from me. But I try to, especially with like police or like people in uniform, I don't want to give them money as well because I'm like, this is, no.
It's not their job to take the money.
Rewinding sort of pre-adventure and getting out on two wheels and sort of this whole life that you live now, where sort of growing up, bikes, adventure, what was sort of your younger years like, and how did that sort of lead on to where we find ourselves now?
Yeah, bikes took a long time to kind of come into my life. I only got my motorbike license at 28.
Right.
So I was never really busy with motorcycles, but...
Was there any influence, family or anything?
My father used to ride motorbikes until he had an accident and broke his arm in two places, and then he quit. So I didn't grow up, and that was already, you know, when I was super young. So I didn't grow up with my father riding, but my brother rides motorbikes since 18 immediately.
Right, yeah.
So he's always been a fan of riding. But still, I wasn't really thinking about that. But I've always been a traveler. So since I was 17, 18, I traveled alone as well. So like I would book my first real trip on my own was Egypt. So I just booked a flight to Egypt, and there I went at 18.
Yeah.
And also my jobs, I always traveled around the world. So in my previous job as a geologist, I was away like 9 months out of the year. I backpacked for 2.5 years. So I've always been traveling. So for me, when I started Ichy Boots, the traveling wasn't really so scary or new to me. I was like, okay, you can put me in any country, I'll be fine. But the motorcycling, that was pretty new.
So it was something that was just inside you, was always there.
Yeah.
And interesting how you ended up on a motorbike thinking, well, this seems to be the right way to do it.
Yeah, so I've been like most of my travels I've always done as a backpacker, so public transport. And when I discovered motorcycle travel, it just felt like, you know.
And how did that happen?
Is it.
When and how did you discover the two-wheel travel lifestyle?
Unfortunately, I figured out that my partner was cheating on me.
Yeah.
And we had a house together. So
so you were quite far down the road.
Yeah, so when I figured out that was happening, we had to sell the house because I couldn't keep it on my own. So I ended up homeless. And then I figured, okay, if I don't have to pay a mortgage anymore, why am I still working for this employer really? So I thought, you know, maybe I should try something completely different. So I then left everything behind and flew to India with the idea of becoming a travel writer.
Right.
Travel blogger. So I thought, okay, you know what? I'm going to do what I know, that's backpacking, and I'm going to try make a living doing that by writing about it. So I started a blog, and I
When
called
was
that,
this?
This was in 2018.
Okay, so sort of social media's exploded, YouTube is...
No, at the time I didn't have any YouTube, so I just started a blog.
Right.
And I called it ichyboots.com.
Yeah.
Had nothing to do with
And
motorbikes.
why Ichy Boots? Was it did that?
I'm always a kind of a fast traveler. I'm not someone who stays in one place and explores for months in an area. So I was thinking about like the expression to have itchy feet, you know, like it's always like this wanderlust, but then ichyfeet.com was taken.
Yeah.
So I thought, what else? And then because my surname is Shoemaker, that's how I came up with Boots.
Boots, yeah.
Yeah. So then I was in India trying to make a life as a travel writer, and nobody was reading my blog, and I was making zero. And then I realized that they were renting out these, you know, you can rent a Royal Enfield there for next to nothing. It's so cheap. And at the time, I was thinking of going to this remote valley called Zanskar Valley. And I was kind of like, how do I get there? How do I get there? I see this motorbike and I'm like, hey, maybe this is an idea. Maybe I can rent this bike and get to this valley and then write about it. So I rented this bike for 3 weeks.
Had you ridden a bike before?
Yeah, so I had my motorbike license for 2 years, 3 years, but only on the road. So my first motorbike was a Ducati Monster 796.
Nice.
So not a very beginner bike.
No.
But it's a good bike. It's a good bike for a first bike. It's got that classic position, and your feet can be on the ground. And
yeah, but it was a lot of bike, you know. So, but it gave me a thrill. Like every time I saw it, I was like, oh. So that was, that really ignited like the love for motorbikes. I think that was already that Ducati. But I'd never gone off-road or anything like that. So when I rented that Royal Enfield, that was the first time that I was off-road and thinking, what am I doing?
Perfect motorcycle for it as well.
Yeah, it was a really good
Easy
motorcycle.
Easy to pick up, low.
Well, it is
not
heavy
too,
though.
It's heavy,
It's 200
So did you have the
kgs.
old one then? Or
The first, the 411 Himalayan,
because
perfect beginner bike. So
it was you jumped on the Himalaya and
so after I finished that 3 weeks, I had to give back the bike, and then I put back my backpack, and I was like, no, but really, am I now gonna sit in a bus again? So I was I just felt like all my freedom was suddenly gone again, and then I came with the idea maybe I should buy one, and that's also when I started thinking maybe I shouldn't write about this, but film it. Later, I went back to writing, but I kind of abandoned the blog idea, and I thought, okay, I'm going to try YouTube, see if that works. And that just kicked off so quickly that I just focused on that.
So really, it was India that really made you decide to do it on a motorcycle. And then did you start when you went that first trip to the valley? Were you filming it then as well, or
no? That was
just
still
the blog.
Yeah, that was just the blog. Yeah.
And it's only when you afterwards you were thinking, well, actually.
Yeah. So when I bought the bike, then I had a month to think about.
Where did you buy the bike then?
In Delhi.
In Delhi. So you were still in.
I was still in India.
You were still in India.
And so it had Indian plates.
No.
But it took like a month to get all the paperwork sorted. There's a bit of a bureaucratic system there. So I had a month to kind of think about what I'm actually going to do when I have this bike. So then I was thinking like, I think, you know what, I'm going to ride it to Malaysia. Came up with that. And then I thought, maybe I should try YouTube. So I spent like a few weeks watching YouTube tutorials on how to do YouTube and how to do video editing. And I bought a GoPro, and that was it, just one camera. And I did the entire first season, what I call it on YouTube, with that one GoPro. And from there on, it just, gotten bigger and bigger.
And how quickly did you see that growth from zero, standstill, no followers, no subscriptions?
Relatively quickly, I think. Like I got my YouTube channel monetized in a month. So to monetize it, you need 1,000 subscribers and 4,000 hours watch time.
Yeah.
So that took a month.
Wow.
So then I was like, okay, this is the first step. And then at the end, so that first journey, so I rode the bike back from India back to the Netherlands. That took 9 months. And then at those 9 months, I had 150,000 subscribers. So I didn't make a living of it yet, but I was starting to generate some money. So I was like, here we are.
And that's
And
like 8 years ago.
When you came back after India, came back on a motorcycle, what did and you said that I'm going to make my money on YouTube. What were your parents' thoughts?
I mean, when I told them, I'm leaving. So when I left for India, they were like, oh, of course, we saw this coming, because they knew me and they knew I am a traveler. Yeah. So they were kind of waiting like, she's probably going to leave. Yeah, there she goes. And they were always really supportive. And I don't think they ever doubted it.
We're just happy that you were doing what you wanted to do, really, which is all a parent wants, really.
Yeah. How was that for you, actually? Because when you went on your first, the first big trip around the world, you already had kids.
Yeah.
But they were quite young then? They were like 6, 5?
6 and 7.
Right.
Well, 5 and 6.
Did they kind of understand what you were doing at the time?
Yeah, I think so. And we traveled a little bit anyway before. I mean, I was stone broke when I left. I mean, we did this when we left. I left with Ollie and my 2 kids at home with a mortgage, and we were doing a roof extension to try and, you know, maximize the property, and I think I had about £4,000 in the bank, and that was it. And I made a deal with Russ and Dave, who helped us produce it, that I would get paid a weekly salary from the money that we raised from the book, and you know, it wasn't a great deal of money, and so that Ollie could have money to
pay the mortgage,
and buy food. And I mean, there was no, you know, no one knew that when we left there was that
it was going to blow up.
Sitting here 20 years later, you know, none of us. We just thought it'd be a nice video to get, you know, if no one watches it, at least we've got a record of what we did, you know.
Exactly. Yeah.
You know, maybe that was in the back of your mind as well, you know, thinking, well, at least I've recorded it and I have a memory.
Yeah. No, I mean, like I did start it with the idea of like I'm going to try and make a living, but I had like that all of this was that it was going to go so big, and I had absolutely no idea that it was going to, you know, that it was going to end here. I just thought like I'll just make some videos, earn some money, and keep traveling. That was kind of the thought.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think
was that just you were like, if I can make enough money to keep traveling to fund the lifestyle I want,
that was the whole plan. Just
done.
Earn money on the road while traveling to fund my travels.
Yeah,
to keep traveling as long as possible. That was the plan.
It's interesting. The same trip can achieve, and we say this on, you know, the rallies that I go on and various adventures. You know, anytime you bring people together for an adventure, everyone's got a reason for doing it, and everyone's at a point on their path, and those paths could go in opposite directions, or they could come together at that moment at any point in time, and that's kind of the fun.
But I do have the feeling that quite a lot of people start motorcycles at a low point in their life, and then it just goes up from there. So I think that's a good.
Well,
a good thing.
I think without realizing it, you know, since I was 6 years old, you know, I used to do a lot of horse riding and motorcycles as well when young, but that has been, you know, good for your mental health without realizing it. So all my life, I've actually stumbled across something that is actually that mentally is very good for you.
It does give you like a lot of mental clarity, so you might still
Time to think about it.
Yeah, it's a good time to think about things. And
so, what is your ethos to travel and adventure on a motorcycle? How do you approach the trips you do, the planning, the video making? How does that video making support or complement the journey? Because obviously there's that conflict constantly that you need to feed the YouTube channel, but you also just want to, you know, you're in these amazing places, meeting amazing people and doing unbelievable things that you just want to be in the moment and enjoy. So how do you now balance all of that when you're thinking about where are you going to go next?
I am always thinking about the video. So I'm always working. So my mind is always set on, I need to film, I need to record this angle, oh, the light is good, I need to fly a drone or whatever. So I'm always in that mindset. And sometimes I wish like, oh, I wish I could just ride and enjoy, you know, and not think about how to create. But ultimately, I also realized that the fact that I'm creating these videos is, I think, why I've been lasting so long, because it gives me a purpose. Because before, when I was only backpacking, I also backpacked for 2 years.
Writing,
you know, just as a tourist, you know. I made a lot of money in gold exploration as a geologist in Australia. And then I was like, I'm going to travel until I retire. Well, I only lasted 2.5 years and then I ran out of money, unfortunately. But then I was only being tourist, full-time tourist. And it was, of course, great. It was like one big holiday, basically. But it bored me because at some point you're just like, I don't care anymore. Another church, another waterfall. And I just got so bored of it. Whereas now, because I'm always thinking about what story I'm going to tell. And that it's giving me like a sense of purpose that I will never get bored of this.
Yeah.
And I just love researching places so I can, tell a story about it. And
will you do that before you go? You'll pick a region and you think, right, I want to go to the Middle East and I want to tell this story. I want to explore, I want to find out these things. And kind of the research is all done before the trip, or will you meet people on the ground, and does that change your perception and how the story you tell?
Yeah, it does. I mean, I don't plan like everything like super tight or anything, but I try to do quite a lot of research before, you know, so I have a bit of an idea.
I think you have to. I think you have to. If you're going to go somewhere, you have to look at the country you're going to, and you have to say, well, these are the 8 things I'd really like to do.
Yeah.
And then that naturally gives you your route.
Exactly.
Because
Yeah.
they happen to be like
Yeah.
that, and then you naturally go along with that. So at least in the back of your mind, you've got something.
Yeah.
And then if someone says, "Oh, you've got to go over here," well, then of course
You change your plans
I'm
and
guessing
you go.
that's
Yeah, no,
how you do
definitely.
it.
Yeah. And it also depends where I am, because in some countries, also in West Africa with those horrible roads, there's no real sights there, right? There's no old buildings.
There's nothing in between the towns.
But then you don't have to, because there's so much craziness all the time that I know I will have a video. You know?
Yeah, sure, absolutely.
But in other countries, it's very pretty, or like, slightly wealthier countries sometimes, everything is really pretty and organized, and I know there's not going to be a lot of craziness, so then I know I need to prepare stuff
Stuff and places to go. Well, yeah, I mean, I think on the last TV show I remember you and I would go down through Africa, or we went through Russia, or a long way around. The first one, you just wake up every morning and just think, what the fuck is going to happen today?
Exactly.
Because it just is, and then we just did this last one where we just went around Europe on very old bikes, and that, as you said, we had to organise be a bit more structured about it.
Yeah. I mean, now for London, for example, I did a lot of research because I knew like there's so much to see and there's all these stories.
And you'd never been to London
and
before
I never
this
been.
weekend?
No, never been before. So I did a lot of research to kind of familiarize myself with the city, and so I would be able to, I don't know, spit some facts about some places. Because if I would ride unprepared through London, then I know then the video is not going to be as good.
You don't know what you're seeing.
Yeah, exactly. You're just like, oh, it's a pretty building, but that's not the best content, I think. So
Yeah.
No. Yeah.
And how do you approach a lot of people, 2.5 million people subscribe to your channel, sort of living vicariously through your adventures. You're at this extreme end of the motorcycling world for most people, in that you're out on the road all year, riding these amazing places, creating content the whole time. A lot of people will aspire to that. Most people will never get close to it. They won't put the commitment into the filming or creating a YouTube channel, creating a life that can support it. Don't have the time to go around the world for 6 months, or at the length of time you're out on the road, but want to go on an adventure and want to find challenge, and maybe you're inspired by some of the places you've gone to go to. How could somebody else sort of get that sense? And planning for a long trip is different. A week is is it that different to a month or 2 months or 4 months, or is it kind of rinse repeat? What are the fundamentals that you put in place when you're planning a journey?
in the beginning, like when I just started, I had this kind of ritual of like every few weeks, I would just go through my luggage and be like, did I use it in the last few weeks? No, I'm gonna get rid of it. So
Right.
I did like move to like lighter and lighter. Okay, only obviously like things like a device to inflate your tires or something. Okay, even if you didn't use it in the last few weeks, you wanna keep that. But other than that, that helped me to kind of reduce luggage. And now I think I just have a setup that I know like this works.
Kind of a mobile studio now, though. And have you seen a big difference over the last 6-7 years you've been running the channel?
Yeah.
In terms of, even in that time, technology has just leaped ahead in terms of what GoPros, these DJI Globals that we use, and
Yeah, just carrying more and
helmet
more and more.
cams.
My drones is getting bigger and bigger and bigger. Okay, now in the UK I have a small one again, but generally I carry like bigger and bigger drones and more cameras and more, every year I carry more.
Now, you were telling us earlier, talking about drones, that I find this, you clearly know how to ride a motorbike, because you fly your drone whilst you're riding your motorbike.
Yeah.
That's a skill. Some would say quite high risk, potentially, with either a crash person or drone.
I don't do it when I drive in traffic or anything,
No.
right? So I only do it if I'm alone in nature, wide open spaces type thing.
Yeah.
That's when I fly my drones. If I don't fly over cities. So if I want drone footage over a city, I will use stock footage. Like I'm not gonna do that myself. But
even just doing that, sort of.
Yeah, but you know also why? Okay, so all the drones I have, they do have like follow me mode and stuff like that. But I actually blame you for that, because people always assume I have a film crew with me, but since day one, really, and especially in the beginning when I just started, I was like, are you serious? Like, how am I supposed to even afford this, right? Like, why on earth? So the funny thing is, like, a lot of these camera techniques, for us, it's like super obvious. You use a 360-degree camera, so you can move. You use a drone. Like, for me, it's so obvious that I can do all these things. But for a lot of people, this blows their mind still. They don't even understand if I have a photo of me in the bike. People are like, but who took the photo? I'm like, a tripod, like, it's so simple. But still, a lot of people can't grasp that. So they will always say, there has to be a cameraman who is flying the drone,
Yeah.
So nowadays you have also drones that can follow you super close. You can ride a single trail and they will do this. Yeah. But I feel like I can't do that because people just don't believe me. They would just be like, "This has to be somebody." Yeah, but you know what?
You could just got to tell them to fuck themselves, because honestly, people say I have a like you just said just now. Oh yeah, but you've got a film crew of people and they'll
400 people in your support
crew. But they'll help you fix the bike. But if the bike breaks down, that's part of the story. Yeah. You don't want to just park the bike and walk away and just click your finger.
No, obviously you'll pretend to fix it for a few minutes for the.
But even by saying that, you've already now put that out, and then people will sit there and they'll say, "Oh, you see, that he has people to do it." And the fact of the matter is if you break down and you fix a bike, that's part of the story of the adventure.
Yeah.
We don't get people to fix our stuff.
I do all of that myself.
Yeah.
So like all the editing, like all the filming, all the editing. So I don't have a life. This is the only thing I do, and because I'm always on the road, I have no social life. I have no other like hobbies or like nothing. So the only thing I do is doing this, making this. So I feel like.
And do you think that's healthy? Do you think it's?
I say, are you happy?
As I'm saying this, I'm like, this does not sound so great.
I'm feeling stressed for you. I'm feeling, and I'm thinking I was stressed enough just having a whole team of editors to do it, and we just gave them the footage.
Yeah. No, but it is. I often do feel the pressure, because it needs to be good, and every episode needs to be.
Better
and topping the other one, and otherwise it's boring, So there is a lot of pressure. So I think that's the reason why it bothers me when you get accused of like, oh, but surely you have a crew doing everything for you, whereas in fact this is all I'm doing. So that's why I think it bothers me.
I know. Well, listen, it bothers me when people say things about us as well.
I'm sorry,
I
didn't mean it.
No, but
it's hard to be unbothered if people say nasty things.
Well, because you care about what you're doing.
But it sticks when someone says something like that on a podcast. That it's like there's no smoke without a fire, and then you explain yourself, and then they go, but he said it, and he's just saying, but it's just suddenly.
Yeah, and then the last week I actually had an interview, and then. First, it was the whole, don't you really have a film crew? And then also the question was, did you really write your book yourself? And I was like, yeah, I am doing all the work,
Yeah.
Hey guys, I just wanted to say that Quadlock are joining us this season on the Nod Pod. And as we all know, fantastic brand.
Great bit of kit, and check out all the links in the bios. There's a little discount code for all of you lovely people to go and get some Quadlocks yourself.
Yeah, I've been using them for years.
So with all of that, there's a lot of self-enforced pressure to perform and deliver and keep the content coming through.
Only self, because nobody's telling me I have to do this. Yeah.
So where's the payoff? What motivates you to keep doing this? Is it simply great feedback, inspiring other people, seeing women get into motorcycling? Is it just the fact that it facilitates this adventure that you just want to keep going on? Is there enough payback? We're going deep on this now. Like, we're doing a full review of your career right here.
No, I came to realize that I love creating, and I always thought I was more of a beta. With my the science background and stuff, I always thought like I'm a beta person, like I'm a science person. But I realized that I actually really like creating and and the same with writing, writing or filmmaking, video making. I really love it. And like, for example, now I took a break from YouTube for a few weeks, and I don't often take breaks, but when I do it in the beginning, I'm like, oh, what a relief, oh yeah, I really needed this break. And then I really very soon I miss it. And then I get so excited when I am creating.
And what part of it is that? Is that the creative process, or is it the publishing process? Is it the feedback loop of people watching your videos? Where do you...
It's mostly the creative I think that's also why I do my own editing, because I actually love it. Okay, the beginning of the editing is not so great because you have to sync everything, and like the original cutting is But once I have the first cut of the video and I'm adding the music and the little joke maybe, or like a little sound bite, I love that so much. And then it all comes together. And then you're like, and then when it's finished, I'm like, I created this, and then I can't wait to see what people think of it. So then that's one part that I still love so much.
So the feedback, that's always, an interesting point where if you create anything and put it out there, you're at the mercy of the world, and the world can often be a quite negative place, especially online, the internet trolls and everything else. I mean, I think your content, there's a lot of positivity. It's an honest journey of you, and it's, you never need to defend your own voice and your own experiences, right? Because they're yours. But you put it out there and give people the opportunity to do that. As a young woman traveling around the world in exotic, exciting, dangerous
Not so
places.
Young anymore,
well, compared to Charley, you are. How has that been, and as your popularity's grown, has there been overwhelmingly positive? Has there been negative periods? Because you're doing everything, how much to heart maybe do you take some of the feedback, good and bad? How much does that influence what you do and how you feel?
Yeah, I mean, it's bad comments are always difficult to deal with, I think.
Do you just say, well, good or bad, it's just someone's opinion on the internet and who cares? They're not looking me in the face telling me? Or are there people you go to for I think validation in what you're doing creatively, peers within the industry that you look to, or you just keep doing your thing and fuck everyone else?
No.
Which is a perfectly good way to approach it, right?
I think the only times if someone says something really negative, I'd usually just ignore it. And then if you see anything negative, 99% of the time it's John X77654. So it's not that person's name. And so I sometimes just say, oh, thank you for coming. What's your real name? And they never reply.
I just immediately block them though.
Because that's the thing. It's very easy.
Just block.
Block.
I did an article in The Guardian years ago, just talking about the fact I had no testicles, I had cancer twice. Nothing big. Quite, just serious.
I think you're sounding a bit needy.
And then somebody wrote a comment on the Guardian website saying, I had the kind of face you'd like to smack with a rolled up newspaper. I thought, that was quite a good line, but it was totally pointless and needless. And I'm just trying to do a good thing here.
It's easy. It's easier to
You're
say
attacking
something.
me for no reason. You're like, well, you're probably a sad person.
I've sometimes responded with like, did writing this comment make you feel better about yourself?
Yeah.
But ultimately, it's best not to engage
not to get the
with
reaction.
it. Yeah, and ultimately, like I want to be able to read the comment section because there's also a lot of nice comments.
I was going to say the other side of
That's the other side. So I'm like, I want to read the comment section, but I also know that if there's a lot of negativity, it really affects me a lot.
Right.
And it will affect me for the rest of the day, or maybe even the day after. So now I'm at the point that if somebody writes something really nasty, or about the country where I am, I also don't like that. If I'm making a video somewhere and somebody's completely bashing that country or the people in that country, it's easy, I block them. Because I'm like, if you say something like this once, you might do it again. And there's I don't want to give you a podium. Like, this is not the stage to spew your hate,
Well, and if you
keep that to yourself. So I'll just block them. I'm like, I don't
and at
want
least
these
use your
people.
own fucking name. That's the thing I really pisses me off.
Yeah.
Is that, if you're going to make a comment, use your real name.
Yeah.
And I guarantee you they would never write that.
Yeah.
if these were named.
It's true.
I had a journalist once say from the Times, she wrote an article, I won't say her name, but she, at the end of the article, I don't think she liked the fact that Ewan and I had gone off on this adventure and left the wives and family behind. And, you know, that was the connotation of the kind of story. And then she said, well, I hope Charley gets viciously raped by a lion.
Wow.
That was...
Whoa!
I know. My wife was so upset that she contacted the Times and said, look, I can't believe that if she'd said that about a woman,
Yeah, that's pretty awful. Yeah,
that's pretty awful. It's pretty
But
nasty.
it's very telling about what kind of person. If your
person
mind
is.
goes there, then there's something not quite right.
Raped by a lion.
I'm not sure a lion would rape you.
No, it
I
would
think it'd
eat
be
you.
eat you before it
Yeah.
got horny,
Yeah.
surely.
Well,
I mean, especially you. Like, you're much better meal than you
Quite
are
tasty,
a
I would have
shag.
thought. Yeah. There's too much metal. I don't think he'd want to eat me. He'd break his teeth. Can you imagine the amount of metal that's in my body? He'd get one bite here and he'd break his tooth on the titanium that's here, and and he'd go in for the pelvis and break his another tooth on that because there's two pieces of titanium in there. Oh, I'll go for the shin. Oh,
The effect of those negative comments. How do you say a day or two that they can sort of dwell with you? How do you push beyond that? Is it a simple case you're back on your motorbike and everything's good in the world anyway because you're riding a motorbike? Or is that your kind of, from a mental health point of view, how do you maintain that good mental fitness when you're on the road? And
yeah, I think at some point it has to be a conscious decision to not let like haters, you know, decide for you how your adventure going to look like and how much you're going to enjoy it. So I feel like I always try to then consciously be like, you know, this is my life, it's my journey, it's my adventure, and I'm just going to keep on going, you know, like I don't want to ever stop just because of that. That would be such a,
oh no, no, then
that would be wrong, you know?
Yeah, and there's and a lot of it is based on jealousy because they're not doing it themselves, or they haven't got you know, often it's because they haven't got the, you know, the nerve themselves.
Well, as we said at the start, you know, there's a lot of people that would love the idea, but aren't going to put the hard work in to make it reality.
But anyway, having said all that negativity, it's such a small part of the whole thing. I mean, you're not going to get 2.5 million followers.
You get more. There's always more good. You know, like with everything. You know, also in terms of people that you meet and countries that you go to, there's always more good than bad.
Yeah,
that's everywhere. So that's the main important thing.
What have been? I'm sure you cover this in the book, which is now it's available on all good bookstores.
Yeah. Is it #1 bestseller in New York Times or the New York?
It's a New York Times bestseller and a Sunday Times bestseller.
How much did that cost?
See? People doubting me.
Yeah.
Well, it's not new.
Probably a
no, it's fantastic. Listen, I mean, and it's stuff like that you can't. That's something that, you know, because you've written something that people want to read.
And what is the book?
What a great feeling.
What is the book about? What are some of the, you know, I'm sure you're documenting some of the highlights and lowlights of the last sort of 8 years of exploration and adventure. Right?
No, this is my first book, but I'm already writing on my second one. So this one covers how it all started. So it goes in a lot more detail on why I left everything behind and that decision to go to India. And then it's about the first journey of buying that motorbike in India and riding it back to the Netherlands. That's what this book is about.
Right, okay.
But there will be, it's a series.
There's loads more content to come.
Yeah, there's more coming.
Yeah.
I want to keep on writing. To be fair, this first book, I thought I was going to put this and also put in my Patagonia to Alaska journey.
Yeah.
But then as I started writing, I realized there was so much to tell still that this was already one book.
Yeah. And was that quite cathartic, talking about, you know, obviously it was a period of trauma in your life that preempted, that was the catalyst to go backpacking and then onto motorbikes.
Yeah.
Is that something you felt you dealt with or hadn't dealt with? Was writing the book a cathartic process to actually verbalize some of those experiences and thoughts?
Yeah, actually, I do have to say, because I mean, when I started writing this book, so it came out 1 year ago in Dutch. I wrote it in my own language.
Okay.
And now
it's taken a whole year to translate it.
Yeah. Oh, but a whole year, that's fast. Like in the book world moves slow. It really moves slow. But by the time I started writing, it was already 5 years ago that, you know, the breakup happened and everything. But going back and writing about it was definitely, yeah, it opened some doors that I still had kept closed for 5 years.
Yeah.
And I wasn't even planning on sharing all that stuff because normally, like for me, there's a very clear divide between Ichy Boots and Noraly, you know? So on YouTube, I am Ichy Boots.
Yeah. Okay.
But there's parts of my life, like I don't talk about my private life, like, or relationships or anything like that. Like for me, I'm like, I don't need to, why would I want to put this out on the internet, right?
Yeah.
So I always keep a very clear separation. And the plan was to do that for the book as well.
Right.
But then I started writing and then I was like, oh, what am I writing? What am I writing? And then it just kind of came out.
Yeah.
So for some
But
reason...
there's never a if you write a book, it's not, you know, you might start off wanting to write it that way, but
it
never turns out how you originally envisioned.
I think
there's
so, yeah.
something
And
a lot more
it's
personal about the connection between your brain and your fingers writing something, whether it be writing or typing, compared to just speaking.
Yeah, and I mean, like, suddenly, you know, you can talk about your thoughts and your feelings. That you can write about. That, but you would never say that on a video,
YouTube,
you know?
never.
Or on a YouTube video, I would never... Yeah, how do you even share that, right? So it's...
No, it is
a very different part of the story, basically, than what I already put out on YouTube.
Was that cleansing? Was that a cathartic experience to go back? Do you feel like you've
There were some tears.
processed?
Yeah, I
that
guess like
now?
some old, I don't know, still hurt, I think came out. So I think it was good.
What's next? You know, how many countries have you been to?
I kind of keep track a little bit, and I have an app to like a world map where you can click which countries you've been to.
Right.
So that's easy. But
So what's the current count and mileage?
the mileage is like 180,000 kilometers.
Okay.
I do kilometers, not miles.
that's why I think if you've done 100,000,
That's more.
it's a lot to do.
Or not? No, that's
100,000.
160,000.
I mean, people do on average do 12,000 miles a year.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
that's 15,000 kilometers over 10 years. That's 150,000 kilometers. So yeah, I probably have done that. I've ridden further than you.
I don't know.
But
don't know.
not
I don't know.
how many
I would-
countries though.
I would
Here's
have
the question.
I
In
would
and out
have
of
no
London
idea.
isn't quite the same.
Can be a challenge though, but
Yeah.
I don't know. I wouldn't. I wouldn't even know how many countries I've been to. I don't ever.
A lot.
I've never counted.
Most.
So
But get the app. It's fun, or it can be fun.
Yeah.
To kind of.
What's it called?
I mean, it's called Bean.
Bean.
Like I've been there, been. Yeah. I mean, but I don't need to be this person to say like I have been to every country in the world or something. So it's not really about ticking off like I need to. That's not really the goal.
So the tour.
What's
Tell
on
us
the
about the
list?
tour
Yeah.
because this will be out next week.
Oh, you'll be
in a
touring,
week's time
yeah.
or so, and you'll be
Oh, the
touring.
tour, yeah.
So tell us a quick little hit of where you're going to be.
Yeah, so I'll be touring around. Well, I have to say Greater Britain. I cannot say the UK because I'm not going to Northern Ireland. That's where I'm going. So I'm doing book signing events in London, Swansea, Newcastle, and Edinburgh.
Mm-hmm.
And in between, I'm just riding around making content and popping into maybe
it's
some
great.
bookstores. And...
Swansea's a fantastic place.
Yeah, is it nice?
Great to go out at night. Yeah.
Oh,
Great,
no, then I'm
crazy
editing.
people. Yeah. Gotta have a life, my dear.
I don't.
Travelled halfway around the world and doesn't remember going anywhere.
No, but it is true though. Like that's the reality. But you don't see that on the video. I mean, I'm not gonna put like half an hour of edited media. I'm like sitting behind a computer or something.
Well, the good thing is, in 20 years' time, when you've put your Ichy Boots up and you've sat in front of a fire and you've forgotten
gonna do
everything that
that.
ever happened, you can just watch your whole YouTube channel again and remember.
Fuck that! I can't bear
No,
watching.
I can't. No.
I've not seen. I see.
You've
the
never
bare
even listened to one
minimum.
of these podcasts.
No, never. No. I don't
No, you know what I
listen
should
to
have
anyone
done?
else.
If I'm really ready to retire the channel, then some younger person needs to take over and start creating on the same platform.
Do you have a lot of young women sort of reach out to you as inspiration, motivation to get bike
Yeah, I
license
mean,
and stuff?
I always get a lot of messages, but I mean, these are like, I mean, I don't even write with my friends, so
Yeah.
I don't really want to write with people that I don't know at all. Plus, the fact is, I'm creating, right?
Yeah.
So it's not, like, it doesn't really make sense to then have like a string of random people riding behind me.
Yeah. We said earlier, actually, when we rode here after meeting in London, that it must be unusual for you to be riding in a group.
Yeah, that's very unusual. Yeah. I mean, now I enjoyed it because I don't have to worry about navigating, or I can just follow or try to keep up with you. And watching you make wheelies.
No, I never did that.
That was on the closed
never
roads
do
section.
that on public roads.
No, never. Where are you running off to after the book tour?
I'm on my way to Japan.
Okay.
Sure. So
have you been to Japan before?
Never.
I haven't. It's so on
Awesome.
my top of my list.
I've done it.
Do
I've ridden from the bottom to the top, and it's great fun.
But talking about preparing for things, I just recently learned that they have this rule in Japan: if you're bringing your own motorbike, you need to make it roadworthy in Japan. It costs $5,000.
Oh.
And if your bike is not roadworthy to begin with, you still need to pay for all the modifications to make it roadworthy.
Oh, wow.
But I have a 1987. I only have one mirror. There's like a lot of things.
Yeah,
I have a chat with the Yamaha for sure.
Yeah.
They love you. Everybody loves
Just tell them the end shot is you riding into the Yamaha factory.
Okay. Yamaha was, they're super nice. That is true. But the reason maybe why I'm a bit...
They would love, imagine the great,
but
great
you know what happened
YouTube
with
channel.
Honda? Because this is actually a story that I didn't really share before. But so I rode that CRF 300 rally in Africa, right? And before that was already my third Honda in a row. But I've never been sponsored by Honda. Like I've never been. I bought all my bikes myself, never anything. Anyway, then I was in West Africa and my bike made a seriously strange noise. And I took a video of it and I sent it to the Honda dealer where I bought my bike, saying like, what's going on? And they said, your engine is about to die in like the next 200 kilometers. And I was like, really? They're like, yeah. So then I was like, okay. So I said, look, maybe Honda now is the time to help me out a little bit, because I'm in West Africa. Like, come on, you're going to leave me stranded with a dead engine. So that was the first time I asked them, like, can you do something for me? And then their solution was I should buy a new Honda in Europe, have someone take the engine out and ship it to Africa.
That was their solution.
That was their solution. And then I was like, right. So then I thought, you know what? I can't swear on this podcast.
Yeah,
right?
you can.
Okay, then I was like, screw that idea. I'll keep on riding. If it dies, I'm going to buy $1,000 Chinese motorbike and keep going.
They're all riding.
Yeah. Ultimately, it was the chain tensioner that was making this noise.
Oh, you've gone loose.
It was a very simple repair.
Fix, yeah.
And I had these local mechanics. By the time my clutch was also completely destroyed. Anyway, they opened up the whole engine, put everything back together, and I had no issues and I kept on riding.
But the great thing about traveling in those parts of the world, I mean, you talk about
they can
things
fix
breaking,
everything.
They can fix everything. And it's fantastic. You could just
Yeah.
stop by the side of the road. And the great thing about when that's what when you and I went on these old 70s bikes and Ewan with his Moto Guzzi, he kept having this ongoing problem that took us a long time to figure out what
the problem
it was. But the fact, because it's an old bike,
Yeah.
it was really like
Mechanical.
you're telling us, it's just a mechanical thing. So eventually you're going to find, in the end, what it was the HD leads that had just perished. And so it was only when we found out, like at midnight, when this garage that these guys we'd taken the bike there to try and fix it. And it was only right late at night that Mo said, look, turn the lights down and just start it. And we turned the lights down, just started it, and the whole of these HD leads were just arcing everywhere.
Wow.
You could just see the electricity just arcing everywhere. And so we put BMW leads in, which I thought was quite nice. And we put the leads in, and that was it.
Yeah.
Back
But
in
that
business.
I find I am not a motorcycle mechanic and I'm really
No, me
terrible
neither.
with all of it. But that's what I find often the most difficult, is to diagnose, like to figure out
What is
what
wrong,
is the
yeah.
problem. And then often it turns out to be something super simple.
Yeah. So you do learn.
Yeah.
You know.
No, but I always do feel like no matter how many other people tell you what to do, I always think that you learn the best by having experienced it yourself though. But for me, like West Africa kind of broke me a little bit.
It's a reason why most people don't go that way.
Yeah, it's
just difficult.
It was a combination, I think, like, and the rainy season was very intense that year. So like lots of rain, and then like all the mud, like all your stuff is wet all the time. So you get into like wet boots, wet pants, everything smells. There was like
and everything rots as well because it's humid, isn't it?
Yeah, humid, and then most places no running water. You know, so you can't even have a shower. There's no electricity. There are bed bugs or other bugs. So I was like scratching the whole night. I would be up like scratching, and it was just tough, you know. Like it's not a tourist area.
It doesn't have to be that tough. It doesn't. You know, I've learned.
It doesn't add any more to the experience.
I've learned over the years that you know it doesn't. You don't. I don't have to prove anything. Anymore. You know?
And I think it's because like if you go to like East Africa or Southern Africa, people go on like safaris there. So like it's more catered towards travelers or tourists. But West Africa, you have none of it. Like nobody goes there, you know. So it's also wherever you go.
At the same time, there are moments of fabulousness as well when you're
of course,
you know, and you're going, you're thinking
it's wild, you know. Like it's. I've had days there that I was like, oh, this is wild, you know. It was super adventurous. So like ultra adventurous, but hardcore. Those are the memories, you know, and then later they become sometimes even the highlights, even though at the moment you're like, oh, this is so hard.
Well, we say life is about good stories, right? And most good stories come out of some adversity. If everything's easy, nothing really happens.
Yeah, but also I feel like that's actually also, I talk a lot about it in the book, that like, every day of your life you take decisions, you know, every day, small ones, whatever. But there are only a few decisions in your life that really change the entire course of your life.
Yeah.
Well, if I'd never had cancer, I wouldn't be friends with Charley Boorman.
Good thing, yeah.
That's a double negative, isn't it? Yeah, cancer
one.
sucks, so does being friends with Charley.
Yeah, but then surviving it doesn't suck. You know?
My gift for surviving cancer twice was your friendship. Oh, fucking hell. What a joy. I'll take it.
Wow. Well, I thank you.
Thank you too. That was a really nice
enjoyed it. Yeah. And it was nice to be able to head over to Battersea and meet you there and a little bit of riding.
It was really nice to ride together.
Yeah,
I
was very excited about, and you know, hand on my heart, I was absolutely so excited to meet you today. And
same.
You know, there's not many times I'm starstruck. And,
no, and it's one of the most. You know, we sometimes put things out. Who should we have on? And I guarantee your name.
He said he didn't want you on, but.
Who wants to hear about some other fucking global adventurer having a lovely old time riding their motorbikes around the world? I have enough of that with this one. I don't want it's like an echo chamber in here today. So if you don't subscribe, Ichy Boots is the YouTube channel.
Yeah.
Instagram the same.
But subscribe to ours first.
Yeah, subscribe to ours.
Yeah, she's got plenty.
She's got enough. Share some.
You know, we need
selfish.
more. Yeah, something else. She's
subscribers.
She's taking them all, isn't she? Yeah.
We're much newer to the YouTube. Thank you so much. It's been an absolute pleasure to meet you and chat with you.
It's a really fun chat.
Thank you. Thank you for listening to The Nod. This is the outro bit. Powered by Devitt Insurance and supported by our friends at Quadlock. Oh, in case you're, these are cool. Do check them out. They stick your quad lock on your water bottle. Look at that. Isn't that the coolest thing you've seen in a while?
I don't understand why people...
Why does no one else build them? Doesn't matter. Go and get yours from Quadlock. Thanks to the guys there. I hope you've enjoyed this week's episode. Do make sure you subscribe, get the alerts, all that jargon. Do subscribe to Ichy Boots as well. But us first, as Charley said. Follow us on Instagram. Too many.
So selfish.
Too many. Links in all the bios for everything you need on Instagram. We'll be back next week with another guest or guests. 2 next week, I think, if all this goes to schedule. That'll be a really interesting one. Not that this hasn't been interesting, but there'll be more interesting stuff to come next week. And we'll be hitting the road and having a chat, going for a ride, sunny Bournemouth next week. That'll be fun. Join us next time. Until then, stay safe. Be kind and check in with a mate.